Okay. Okay. Hopefully it's working.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not a very long presentation, like you know, Nathalie. So if I need to, especially for François, who is not too far from me, if I need to represent it, it will be relatively fast.
Fabulous. Well, let's kick off then.
Okay.
So this is a follow-up call from the Marketing Expo, where Romain and the rest of the team have gone and done some work as to what be the global rollout of the website, the 2 phases, role responsibilities, etc. So Romain, over to you.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
And can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Emma, first I owe you an apologies. There is absolutely no template on this presentation. So
I'd rather there was no template than a bad one, Romain.
I prefer that if you like it, I will transfer it in the most beautiful template you can find. So guys, we wanted to introduce this with, so just so you know, I did this with John Loader, obviously. We worked on this together. We started with this slide that is more a reminder of what was decided in terms of country rollout. January 2020 is still the global launch. The first list of countries has been decided for March 2020, and it was an easy choice because first, those are obviously key countries, UK, US, China, France, Spain, and Brazil, but also countries where we have cross-contact editors present. So it will simplify things. And then for the rest of 2020, there is this huge list of countries you guys decided on a while ago. I think you are going to talk about this again in one of your future meetings. It still feels like a very long list of countries for me, especially when we have not identified yet key people to manage the rollout in those countries. But this is really a follow-up question for you guys, and not really the subject of this presentation today.
I think Romain, I think it's a fair point. I think it's not around the headcount. I think it's the criteria for why these countries need a website.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, even, I don't know if John Loader joined this call yet, but even in terms of management and coordination and everything, it seems like a huge list, but that's just my 2 cents, and I'm mostly in charge of editorial and content, so I don't necessarily have the big picture on this one, so I let this to you guys with pleasure. Next slide. So,
just one thing for me to clarify, but I'm going to send a note. When we talk about the global rollout, so 17th of December is a soft launch. Nothing is happening externally. We then have from the 17th of December through to the end of January to really look at the website, make sure there are no bugs, make sure all the links are working, everything has been migrated, everybody's happy with the content, and then we do an external push at the end of January, right? You're going to get an email from me today, tomorrow, asking you, and John Ferro, thank you for sharing for your email earlier on today, but really to get a list from all of you on this call around what else needs to be migrated on the global website. So I just wanted to do that little aparté. Does it make sense? Everybody clear on what I just said?
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah? Rina, Ignacy, all good?
Sorry, I wasn't mute. Yes, all good.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think when we communicate it out to the marketing team, we need to just clearly explain the difference, because I think when you say it's live globally from December, even if we're not promoting it, it's still going to be visible. So people will still be able to see it.
Yeah.
So I think we just need to be really clear in the comms that goes out as well.
Yeah.
So next slide, guys. We've tried to, obviously you can interrupt me anytime and ask questions. Don't feel you need to wait for me to end. We've tried to identify the major functions for this rollout. The most central one at country level will be the local project managers, and we've identified this to be owned by the managing editors in countries. So, for example, Martin Go in China and Ross Tucker. And those guys will be pretty central because they will be in charge of coordinate the local rollout, train the local divisional editors on the tool, gather the content from the global content manager and local divisional editors for local specific content, oversee the translation and adaptation of all content, upload and approve the content on the CMS in the end. There will also be a very editorial task of making sure that all the content is following the writing standards that has been decided a while back. The second list of key people for this rollout are going to be the local divisional editors. So people in your team, guys. Those people are obviously your local specialists, and they will have the task of translating and adapting the content that is divisional specific in each of the countries. So it has not been totally decided yet because we have some question about the number of licenses we are going to have on Sitecore, but I would like them to have direct access to the CMS so they can do much of the work themselves, so that in the end, the local managing editors, the local project managers just have to approve the content. But most of the work that is divisional specific could be done by the local divisional editors. Go ahead.
Roman, it's Gary. Just
Yeah.
a quick clarification on these local division editors. So when you talk about translation of content and those kinds of things, for a smaller division that does not have
Gary,
that responsibility, like me, I'm thinking Dion probably doesn't either. How are we going to do that?
That's a very fair point, and this is something John Ferro and I are working on another much more extensive document on ways of working post-launch.
Okay.
And for smaller brands, sorry for the lack of a better words, obviously you guys will communicate. You guys have communicated your content directly to the global content managers with Kirsty right now, and Kirsty will transfer these documents to this content to the local project managers, and the local project managers will translate this content for you.
Okay.
Obviously, if you can still provide us with some key local content, even though they are not purely editorial people, at least to validate the content, that would be a huge plus.
Okay.
Roman, it's Rena. Just a question. When you say content, how are you breaking that down? Is that translations of the expertise pages, translation of the blog content? Are you also talking about marketing campaigns, brochures, landing pages, etc.?
Right now, we are only talking about product pages. Because content that will be transferred from the old websites already exist and already are in the local language. So, for example, if we transfer the blog post from Kantar Media in France to the global website, to the new French local website, this content will already be in French. So it won't be a very different work that what was done at global level up until now. It would be locally translated content transferred to another locally translated website. So the translation work right now, it's mostly about the new expertise page, industry page, and about us, basically all the new content that was created specifically for the website.
Okay, so you're basically lifting and shifting what will be on global to be translated for the regional sites. So you are not going to be, for example, just saying, as an example, if Gary has a health marketing campaign rolling out in January 2020 that's going to be in France and in Spain, if there is a piece of thought leadership or a landing page content, that won't get translated to sit on any regional sites?
Well, if we want, it could, but then it will be part of the new workflow post-launch, which is, we haven't presented this to you guys yet, but it will go, in the case of health, it will go to Kirsty, that will put it on the global website, and then Kirsty would transmit this to all the local people for local translation.
Okay, I
The
think
look.
as part, so I think the lifting and shifting will be probably easier to do because a lot of that content will have been approved and it'll have gone through the process. I think based on the marketing campaigns that are going to launch from January 1st,
Agreed.
I think we probably need to have
Agree.
a separate workflow and a very clear guidance of what will get translated and what won't get translated, because the volume of work, particularly if I look at the names on here, are the same people doing a lot of the other projects that we're asking them to get
Absolutely.
involved with. So I'm worried about everybody being overwhelmed, doing lots of things, and it's just going to cause a lot of tension. So I think we need to just have a bit of clarity and thoughtfulness of what's phase one priority versus what happens once the regional websites are rolled out.
Absolutely, Rena, and that's also why at local level, I really want to have the local divisional editors involved as early as possible, because we will need all the workforce we have available in countries, obviously. For example, in your case, Rena, I want to have Marina involved as soon as possible, so that she can. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
I won't be, and Ross Tucker and Martin Go, we won't be to do everything able to do everything at the same time. So it's critical that your team, your editorial team, is involved as early as possible on all of this.
But I think you also need to be clear that, the people like Marina and so on they have got BAU jobs to do for divisions, marketing campaigns, etc. So I think we either need to, as an exco, decide that these people aren't going to be doing their day jobs and they're going to be fully focused on this for 3 months, or they're going to have to manage time, resources, and effort, because I just worry our people are already overworked. They're doing a lot of things. They're trying to do everything in the right spirit. And we're asking people to do quite a lot of activity.
I'm jumping a few slides here, but we are going to come back on this. But John and I have been thinking about this a lot, and he's going to present to you in a few minutes. But at the bottom of this slide, our proposal for you guys is to say that 100% of the local project manager time will be on the new website. So it means basically all of us stop working on our legacy website. All of us, meaning my team, which is fine for me. And that's 50% of your local division editor's time is spent on the new website during this transition period. So from January to March. This is only a proposal, so this is only our proposal to you. We feel with John Loader that if you give us 50% of your guys' times, we can make it. But it's only a proposal. This is something for you guys to discuss. Okay.
Roman,
yeah.
This is Ignacy. I have another question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that in the previous slide, I think that you included a few countries to be launched in March, whereas other countries are going to be launched during 2020. Whenever during 2020, I mean, if we are interested and we get a webmaster, we can get Italy or Germany within the first set of countries.
The question is, when can we do it?
Yeah, if I want to launch Germany or Italy,
so
can I get them in the first set or not?
John, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, there is obviously flexibility. We've picked those 6 countries because, as Roman says, they are core markets, and also we've got an incumbent editor who can handle them. So theoretically, yes, if we can find a group of people who could handle, say, the Italy site, we could run multiple jobs in parallel. At a certain point, it is going to add a considerable overhead to the central webmaster. So whoever the global webmaster is going to have to be working with all those people, and that's going to become unsustainable at some stage. The other thing that I want to throw into the mix here, Roman and I have already had some discussion about this, he's referred to it, is the number of license seats we've got available. Now, the terms of our Sitecore license were established in February of this year, at which point we were looking at a much more constrained list of countries, i.e. primarily global in those 6. So the current Sitecore license allows for 10 users to be concurrently using the CMS. That doesn't mean we have a total of 10 users. We can create 150 users. 10 of them can be logged on at once. So I'm going to check with Sitecore how strict that limit is, whether whether we can go over it occasionally as long as we don't regularly break.
From other parts of
Yeah.
the business.
Yeah.
So I think realistically, where we are, the resources that we've got and the time, I think Roman's proposal of those 5 countries going first should be our sole focus. And in parallel, the Exco should work out.
Sorry, guys, I lost you for a minute. Sorry about this.
I agree with all of that, Rena, and I just want to go back to an earlier point that you made. Just in terms of looking at the content, I think we have to put some guardrails around what content really should be translated and what doesn't need to be. So, for example, I could see something like a brand Z, right? We'll want to have that translated into various languages and on these local websites. But for a white paper, very specific to health, as an example, like I wouldn't probably translate those kinds of things. Our business, the only place that we run into where we might have to translate from time to time is China. But most of the European countries and other parts of the world, it's English, so it's not like I wouldn't say.
All right.
I think, yeah.
Sorry,
I completely agree with you, Gary. I think we should just be smart about what we can achieve in the time frame we've got and be strict about what we can do rather than saying we can do all of it.
Exactly.
How are we going to tell our colleagues that currently have websites in all those markets to close their websites if we can let them open the new ones? Are they going to be able to keep the old website until they can open the new one?
For now, they keep it open.
They keep it open. They keep the existing website.
Yes.
All right.
I think
All right.
So the purpose of this call is for us to all be on the same page in terms of the global rollout. Then we will take that to the Exco. The Exco being Eric and the divisional CEOs, to make them aware of the plan and ensure that they agree with the 2 phases, and then we will communicate. But right now, no one is shutting down any website.
Oh, that's fine. As long as they can keep it, then they will continue having the local website of the whatever division is open.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys can still hear me because my French internet decided to go in strike, which is what French people do in general.
Yes, we can
Okay.
hear you.
You can, good. Another thing for the local project managers, in countries where we won't have editors, we made a few suggestions. Obviously, this needs to be someone with a strong digital copywriting and project management background, whoever we end up picking. And obviously, I know it will be people from divisions, which is absolutely fine, but we will have to make it very clear in their mindset that they need to think Kantar first before their own division. And this will be a very important pick, because we feel that in the future, once this local website is launched, like in Italy, for example, this person will probably, it will be much simpler if he or she becomes the next managing editor in charge of the website. So obviously, it's not going to be only a 2 months work. It might change entirely his work for its future at Kantar. Okay. We listed a few other functions in there, nothing you guys don't know. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Obviously, John Loader will still be very involved in this project, because he will be coordinating the launch of local websites with SuperUnion. You guys, obviously, are central to this. And the local marketing managers that will have to, like Melissa Wilson, that will have to work very closely with the local project managers to make sure that everything is what she hopes it's going to be.
Yeah.
I heard a voice somewhere.
No, that's
Okay.
disagree.
We just to make things very clear, we did a summarized slide of who is coordinating. One thing we haven't talked about is training. So the plan about all this is trainers, trainees, trains. How do you say this? People that are train other people, basically, in very bad English. So, for example, Kirsty will train the other project managers, the other local project managers, like Martin and Ross and so on. Those guys will train people in your team, and so on and so on and so on. So that we don't have to organize huge training session, but at the same time, everybody can be trained anytime in the future. Who is gathering the content, who is doing the translation and approving it. This has been talked before. I'm going back to this timeline slide. John, I see you worked on this one, so.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to talk through it. I mean, this is all based really on what we've discussed to date. There's a period in early January where we are looking at the content on the global site, working out which bits of it need to be transferred for the local site, because it may be that some things not, China doesn't have public, so it may not want to put the policy and society section on there, etc. So there will be a cut of the global content, which is required for the local site. There will also be some thinking from the local team around whether anything in the global content needs to change to actually be localized rather than translated, because circumstances of the offer or whatever are slightly different, or our expertise in the industry is different in that country. I know that America, for a start, are already looking at it and thinking that they organise the business slightly differently, and they're going to need to make sure that they're using language that resonates with their offer. And Melissa raised that in the next go. Once we've got that worked out, and that will be the divisional editor, local editors working with the country project lead, we can get the content translated. Now, that may, in some cases, be something that we can do with the local team, but as has already been pointed out, there'll be many examples where the local team is either too small or too busy with their actual real jobs to do that, in which case we may well end up going out to agency. So we've put a block of time in there to get that done. I've also put in there video localization, because we can't forget about that. There will be countries where we will at very least need to get subtitles done if we don't re-record audio, whatever. That's also our opportunity to do a bunch of other stuff, which mainly doing, so checking with legal that there are no different terms and conditions that need to be adhered to in a particular territory, that sort of thing. While running in parallel with that, we can do any more CMS training that's needed. So the global team will be passing on that information. Kirsty will presumably be doing the training for the other editors. They've already actually had some sessions with SuperUnion. After that, that can be trickled down to everyone else. So by the time we get to everything translated and we're ready to upload it. Early February, everyone knows how to use CMS. Content upload, that's the one where that asterisk in the footnote kicks in earnest. It's a very difficult thing to gauge at this moment exactly how long that's going to take, because for a start we haven't uploaded all the content onto the current site, so we don't know how long it takes to put it onto global. I can tell you that there are 4 people dedicated at CP to uploading the content onto the global site, and they are allowing at least 3 weeks for doing that. So that's quite a lot of man hours. However, they are at the same time having to do things like put the page together, so they're having to make sure all the right elements are in the template and so on and so forth. If we can do a copy and paste of the structure of the global site into the country site space and then just delete what we don't need, the people populating the country sites won't have to do all that. All they'll have to do is look at the page, say, okay, here's the heading, here's the translated heading, copy and paste. So our estimate is that about a month is a worst case scenario for that, getting that work done. But as Roman says, that assumes that we've got 100% of the local project manager working on the project, and we reckon about 50% of the local divisional editor's time. So that can flex, but we need to be aware that if that changes, we might end up taking longer or less time in order to get the content uploaded. There will obviously be some sites where we can start this process earlier because they won't have had to wait for the translation, UK and US are obvious examples. But this plan is a kind of general template plan for any country. So we've got both elements in there.
Just one word, John. CMS training, it seems a little bit late, but just so you know, CMS is only the second part of the work. We have another tool called Gather Content, which is where we are putting all the content once it's being translated. So it does not mean that I mean the content will exist somewhere before the CMS training. We have another tool.
That's very true, yes. So the aggregation is happening in Gather Content, and then it will be taken from there and put into the CMS. So content testing and sign off, obviously people in country are going to want to have time to review this, make sure it's up to scratch, make sure all the localization has been correct, we've got the correct legal terms, etc. there for the country. So allowing a couple of weeks for that. There will be some technical overhead during that time as well, where we do any necessary redirects from existing sites, articles, etc. into the new locations. That has to happen at the end because we need to know where the new things are sitting so we can redirect them. All in all, that gives us, I think, we came up with about a 12 to 13 week migration cycle. Any questions?
Oh, there you go.
Hi, John, it's the other John here.
Hello, John.
Hello. The content upload, the period for that. Well, 2 things. One, it might be worth doing an audit right now of the content on the sites, because I think on some sites might have a lot more content than we may think. So I think, for example, like US Media, they have over 1,000 items in their blog. Now, we're not saying we'll move all of them over, but I think you'll be surprised at how much of that content does still get traffic and has links. And that will give us a better indication for the workload. And following on from that is the period we have for content upload seems too aggressive. That's copying across again, using US and UK as an example. That's a lot of content to move over in three weeks while doing as Rena said, business as usual. Is it not possible to do the CMS training in January so they can start migrating content that doesn't need to be translated? So basically what they already have on their site, then that gives them a 2-month run, which I think still is a bit tight, but is probably more doable possibly than a 3-4 week period.
Just one word before I let John reply. Sorry to interrupt you, John Loder, but about those migration, we've been pretty drastic on the global website about what should and could be transferred to the new website, meaning that if there was no actual proof that the content was generating some sort of traffic, there was absolutely no reason to migrate it. So in the end, we agreed on 30 to 50 pieces of content per division at global level, if I'm not mistaken, which I thought was already not bad, especially because even on those 50 pieces of content, there was very little justification on some of them in terms of traffic generated, and even less in terms of lead generated from this traffic. And this is something that I think it is very tempting to want to transfer everything from the legacy websites to the new websites. But in fact, it turns out that a lot of our content right now is generated basically zero traffic on the current website.
Hey, Roman, just quickly, I just wanted to make sure I understood. So I understood that we're not bringing all the content over from the existing websites, but there was a number set to the number of pieces of content that we could bring over. That was 50. That's still correct, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I just want to be clear. Thank you.
We're talking about, just to be clear, we're talking about articles. They are not product description and so on, just for articles.
Yeah. When you say articles, so I want to make sure I'm clear. So when you say articles, are you talking white papers?
Yep.
Okay. What about not media articles? Because there was some conversation between like white papers and reports and those kinds of things versus media articles. I'm not sure where that ever landed.
I'm not sure. Maybe it would be better for you to check exactly with Natalie, Gary, because I know she's been working very closely with Kirsty on this migration.
I will.
I'm not exactly sure what was transferred and what was not transferred for her.
I'll connect back to her.
Roman, the issue is, I get your point, you're right. We shouldn't lift and shift everything. But I think having an arbitrary number of 50, or whatever is what we already with a global one, just in media and consulting, we identified over 100 pages that we could prove had page views, substantial number, but also more importantly, inbound links, which is key for SEO. I think we can't start from the point of we want to have a smaller number simply because it's easier to migrate.
No. And I think that's fine. I think it's up to us to say and to really prioritize the key pages. So if it's 100, it's 100, but to give ourselves enough time. So that's I don't think we need to have this conversation. I think it's fine. That is fine to have 100 pages if it's what needs to happen, or 100 items, or it's just that when we do the kickoff call, let's say with Melissa, we need to be crystal clear with her in terms of the content, etc. I don't think we're here saying you just need to have 50 articles or 50 press releases, or it's really what is relevant, but be realistic that, if we want to be ready by end of March, we might not be able to have absolutely everything, and then we can build it up. If we can't.
That's my point, and that's my worry is a lot of that content's been there, especially some of the older sites have got a lot of inbound links, which is critical to SEO, and we got to be really careful about losing it. And we're talking about 150. I said media on the US site, we've got over 1,000 pages in the blog. Now again, I'm not saying we move all of it over, and I'm pretty sure a good chunk of that we can lose, but I'd struggle to see how we're going to get from 1,000 pages down to 100 or 200. And some of that content does have page views and inbound links. Now, what I'm saying is, we do the audit now. We can start the audit now, though, because there's nothing to stop us.
Yeah, I think we should start the audit now.
Yeah,
because that will give us the deep information. All we need to ask for is the inbound links, which we can get from Google Search Console, map that up with the page views from Google Analytics. That's just a simple mapping exercise. And then we can arbitrary on data say, okay, this data, these pages we lose because it's clearly no page views, or 20 page views is too low. Fine, cut it off. But these pages have got inbound links, which we are critical, and then we can have a better discussion around migrations. At the moment, I'm just worried we're trying to get it for March rather than let's get the right content across and have enough time for it.
Website, if we don't get this right properly, we're going to have SEO problems.
We'll be on the back foot.
And it's going to cause us issues, which we already have with the websites closing and low traffic. So I would agree with John that we do it on a case-by-case basis and go through the audit with clear criteria of what goes across and what doesn't go across. I do think from a technical point of view, your CMS training planned for February is too late. It's far too late. You're asking them to learn it in 1 week, and then You're asking them to upload pretty much straight after. If I was you guys, if I was looking at this, I'd move the CMS training and do it in December, so you don't have it rolling over.
Yeah.
Everything else. It's
That's
too late.
fine.
Guys.
The risk there is if we do it in December and then there's nothing for them to upload until February.
It doesn't matter, John. As long as they've done it in December, then they're ready to go.
Well,
disagree,
in fairness, if they can't
December and then doing it in February, not ideal.
Yeah, I
Much
think-
better to be trained and then do it immediately.
I think we'll have to agree to disagree on that, but okay.
But why can't Superunion have the sites up in the back ends in January or December? It's just an empty shell, isn't it? So we just
Yeah. I mean, we can do that. We can spawn the sites and people could practice in them, but the risk is that we then have to take out everything they've put in because.
no, but they can start adding the content, like the content that's already on the site. For example, content that's been added in the last 6 months, that's got to be migrated. They can start with that while the audit's going on, but the audit should be fairly quick because it's just pulling data and just doing a quick cut-off point, anything below this number of page views.
Exactly.
So that, I mean, that
Yeah,
could
if
be
we can
done
pull-
theoretically in 2 weeks,
If we
Which
can
is getting
pull
data.
the content migration of existing editorial forward because it doesn't need translating, then
Yeah.
that would be a possibility. The one thing I would like to say on the previous conversation about the amount we copy across, I absolutely agree that creating an artificial limit is risky, but we've also got that tension that the longer we spend migrating stuff across, the longer we have to keep existing sites open, and that's also impacting the SEO. So we don't want to lose articles that have got inbound links, that's bad for SEO, but we don't want to have to keep multiple sites open for longer, that's bad for SEO. So at some point we have to meet in the middle on that one.
Also inbound links are not a magic. It's not a magic stick either. If you generate zero traffic on an article with an inbound links, it's still zero traffic and it's still zero SEO.
Roman, Google uses, that's the whole point of SEO is to build inbound links because that's what Google tracks. I mean, it's inbound links. So even if a page doesn't have any page views.
So believe me, because I had a training on this at Google, Google tracks this when people click on those links. If nobody clicks on those links, it's not it's generating zero SEO. So, but at the end, we agree, John. It's just about if this page exists and generating traffic.
Google won't know about clicks from a referring site. They'll only know if it comes from the search engine. So that's right. But if there's an inbound link from the BBC, for example, that generates SEO love, basically, because that's a large site. Google takes note of that. It will have no idea of how much traffic comes from BBC to our site, but it makes note that there is a big site, a BBC linking to one of our pages. That is really, really good. That's what we're trying to do, SEO.
Oh, it does for
Guys,
cookies and
sorry,
analytics,
this is
but it's fine.
Ignacy.
It's really a technical debate, so it's fine.
Yeah, I think I'm conscious of time because I need to rush after the meeting, and I don't know if there is any super important message that you want to send across before we leave.
So, is everybody happy with this approach that was presented by Roman John?
It causes problems to me in Insights because this means that I will need to keep sites open, which
So
means
around
that I would
that,
need.
John is going to check with Sitecore around the licenses. But if you have people, Ignacy, that's a question of resources.
I do have people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll check licenses with Sitecore to see where we are. And we'll come back to you, Ignacy, on that. Otherwise, in terms of the approach, people involved, etc., is everybody happy? And obviously, the approach will include the audit of the content, etc. Yes?
I'm happy.
Natalie, so are we saying that we're going to do the review, the content
Yes.
audit earlier?
Yes,
Okay. Yeah.
we should.
Are you going to be sharing this presentation? I would like to analyze the presentation with my digital team, of course,
Sure.
to go to the detail of that. Thank you very much.
Sure. Another thing on the timeline is that this is very, as long, right now we need to understand that we haven't even done this work on the global website yet. So, I mean, this is quite an estimate, you know, we are not even sure how long it's going to take to put everything on the CMS, on the global website. So it might be absolutely right that at least the green part of the timeline, it's going to have to be probably longer than what it is right now. Which is fine, by the way. We just don't want it to last a year, but it's fine.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, so Romain, if you don't mind adding the audit of the content, starting.
Okay, starting now, basically, right?
Yeah, and
okay.
If you don't mind sharing your presentation with everybody that was on the call, including as well Francois, Dion,
Okay.
and Vicky that were not on the call, and do a follow-up call, John and Romain, with them.
Yep.
And then we're trying to, so we were supposed to present at the Exco this week the website, the navigation look and feel, etc. So the meeting is going to be rescheduled for next week or the week after. But if everybody is happy, we will share this rollout with the divisional CEOs and let you know if there are any concerns or anything. And then we can kick off the calls with the 6 countries for them to start working, doing the content audit, etc.
Okay.
That sounds good?
Yep.
Yep.
Rina, John, Ignacy, Gary?
Yep. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Thank you all. Thank you, Romain and John, for working on this.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon.
Guys, good work.
Cheers.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
a lot.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.